welcome back to
Welcome
Jokecast.
back.
Happy end of summer.
Happy the end of summer and the beginning of the season following summer.
School season.
School.
It's not bad. It's not bad. It's fine. It's whatever.
What a good. No, my back hurts. Welcome back to back pain.
Welcome back to Jokecast. It's been a while.
Jokecast. It's been a minute. How have you been?
Leave your answer down in the comment section below. We won't read it.
Leave a like.
Leave a like.
Hit that. Nope.
No, don't subscribe. We don't want you to subscribe.
I can't say that out loud.
Say it. Hit
the like.
Okay. Well, if you do subscribe, please follow my Minecraft playlists.
Follow Vivian's channel for Jokecasts and Minecraft Let's Plays on the daily.
It's not Let's Plays. It's more
Let's Plays.
It's more base tours.
Ugh, what I really enjoy about Vivian's channel is that you can really watch the grass grow. That's
if you haven't seen,
a subtle allusion to. That's a very subtle allusion to Vivian's most recent Minecraft.
If you haven't seen my new movie, it's animated. It's called Watching Grass Grow. Please check it out.
It's very deep and philosophical. It examines a lot of the.
It's the video before this one. Please check that out. Okay, on to the Jokecast.
Jokes. Guys, we did it. We came back. We told some jokes. It was looking pretty bleak there for a bit.
Well, we haven't told any jokes yet.
Well, what I'm saying is that the viewers have submitted jokes, so we know that jokes are still out there.
Thank you for that.
The future of jokes is not always certain, and I appreciate your constant ability to bring them back time and time again. This rare medium that could easily just end one day.
Yeah.
The future is never certain. Let's have some jokes.
Okay, I have a joke.
Well, why don't you tell me this joke?
This joke was submitted by my friend Logan.
Logan?
Yep, Logan.
Stromboli.
Nope. Logan. Okay, June.
Yes.
What do you call a fancy gym?
What do you call a fancy gym?
A James.
Ah, ha, ha.
So, I think the first thing to unpack here is that it's clearly like a pun, a play on words, dare I say, instead of names, like name games.
What's interesting to me is the level of extreme classism this joke. This joke is a very elitist joke. It is told from a perspective that just looks down on all of the gyms of the world and just tells them that they aren't good enough, and I would not agree that makes a good joke.
Yeah, if you want to think about, when I hear gym makes me think more of a working class regular guy, and James makes me think of maybe, I don't know, there's a lot, like maybe someone who owns a suit, or someone who's maybe a CEO, or someone who plays a jazz.
There's definitely, yes, the jazz,
So, I don't know. Anyway, but there's two different branches, right? The gyms who are the regular people, whereas the Jameses are maybe more elite. And I think this really ties into some sort of themes of elitism, with the fancy. Who says that people named Jim can't be fancy?
Exactly. We all know and love the comic strip Garfield.
Yes.
Created by perhaps one of the most elite gyms of the century.
Jim Davis. Yeah, and I just think I think we really gotta take a step back and think, well, just because somebody goes maybe by a nickname or by the name Jim instead of James, it doesn't mean that they're not fancy.
Absolutely not.
It just means that they like nicknames. And no shame to the Jameses out there. That's a good name too, right?
Sure is.
Anyway.
It certainly is.
So there's that element of the fancy Jim versus James. And then there also, I don't know, I think, the play on words like a fancy gym. Have you ever been to a gym that's fancy, though? Not a person, but a workout establishment?
I don't think that I have.
I think hotel gyms can be fancy or classy. They can also lack class.
That's true.
I think they should have said classy instead.
Classy.
I've never been to a fancy gym.
I imagine fancy gym conjures up the imagery of formal wear and luxury that one does not typically see at a gym.
Yeah, maybe like a home gym for
A home
somebody
gym.
who is really rich.
Such
So
as a Jim Davis.
yeah, maybe there's like a chandelier from the ceiling.
Perhaps. Sorry, the phrase Jim Davis is the 1% popped into my mind, and that is proving to be a distraction. I do not mean to make a mockery of Mr. Davis. It is common knowledge that he comprises all of the 1%.
Yes, well, can you please keep your bias in check?
I'm sorry.
All right. So on to rating this joke. Once again, the joke is, what do you call a fancy gym? A James. I think that it works on many levels, but I'm not sure if it's commentary on the greater social issues that it presents, or it just is using them as a joke. It was like the punchline of a joke.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I think that I would give this a 3 out of 5 because while I disagree with the sort of elitist perspective that it has, I don't think that ruins it entirely or makes it a joke not worth telling.
That is a really enlightened way to think. I will agree with you. A 3 out of 5.
Fantastic.
Sounds good. Do you have any jokes to tell?
I do. I have some jokes. I believe I have one.
You have a joke? I was wondering, do you, in the absence of jokes, the two we've had in our lifetime, do you feel like there's a lack of jokes in this world, or is it maybe just a lack of funny jokes or a lack of relevant jokes? Like, what do you think this lack of jokes is?
Well, I think that nearly anything could be labeled a joke, but I think that it takes some. You must be established as someone who makes jokes in order to truly create a joke that could be considered by the general public to be a funny working joke.
Right.
Anybody can say anything at any time and say that was a joke.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to have something that is accepted by the general population as a joke, it needs to be you need to have established yourself as a comedian, as a jokester per se.
That's really interesting. How do you feel about repetitive jokes?
I would say that they have their place,
Mm-hmm.
and to a certain extent they can be workable in the real world, but there is always a time where repetition loses its shine, and that place is fairly early on for me. I have of the jesters and the jokesters that I know, I have somewhat of a lower tolerance for more repetitive jokes.
All right, where's this joke you were talking about?
All right, well, I had it and then I lost it. Thank you, Steve Jobs, for making a working phone for me to use. Ah, here it is. Now, this joke was submitted by, I don't remember, because I cropped out whoever submitted it to us. So we're going to say...
Shame. Shameful.
I'm so sorry. So we're going to say that this joke was submitted by Jim Davis himself, ascended...
Not sponsored.
Not a sponsor.
No affiliation to the real Jim Davis.
No affiliation to the real Jim Davis. He ascended from his ivory tower on which he lives. He let down his hair like Rapunzel because his hair is that long.
Mm-hmm.
And that's strong and beautiful. You should Google a picture of Jim Davis right now if you haven't. It's incredible. You would never think. Anyway, he has descended from his ivory tower to tell us this joke. What do you call an elephant that doesn't matter?
What?
Irrelevant.
I can't give that quite a chuckle.
I don't think I can either. I'm disappointed that Davis has delivered us this pun.
Yeah, and I have no beef with animals, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think of myself as a very generally good, nice person, but I just don't really think animal jokes are that funny. I guess it depends, but usually they involve puns, and we all know how I feel about puns. But I can excuse a pun, but puns that...
Animal puns are a very base level sort of pun.
Yeah.
And they really play on kind of the very basic level of comedy, the very entry level sort of, maybe this is your first time telling a joke. maybe you're a child, or you don't understand that jokes are a deeper art form.
Yeah, so I think we can try. I think there is a greater element of depth there, but I'm confused as to. I would say this depth comes from the fact that elephants are irrelevant now to poachers as they are taking and abusing these animals in order for monetary gain. Where so elephants are really irrelevant in the eyes of the public, except for they are needed for their goods, which aren't necessarily needed. Maybe I think this joke, while an animal basic, very very basic pun, derives from this sort of abuse that they face.
That's an interesting take on it, but I wonder, perhaps in that vein, if this joke is almost satirical and it's drawing attention to how, in the past, poachers have taken these elephants and killed them for their resources that they give, but that we don't necessarily need, that we don't need to survive, and thus, in that way, they don't matter.
Huh. That. Could you elaborate more on that?
I suppose I think that it may be a stretch to assume this, because it is such a basic format of an animal pun. But I almost think that an interpretation of it could be that it is poking fun in some way at the poaching industry, and that at the attitude, yes, the attitude that poachers have towards these elephants, and that they use them and abuse them.
All right. So on to scoring. We did a very good analysis. I think we really got to the roots of this joke. But what I want to do for this one is multiply the points I'm giving it. So I say I would give it like a 5 out of 5 for, basic, like depth. I realize a good meaning there. I would give it a 5 out of 5. So times 5 is 25. Give that for, the commentary and stuff.
Social relevance.
Yes, and I would give it a 0 out of 5 because it is an animal pun. So
5 times 5 times
0, right?
Would be 0.
Yeah, it's a 0 out of 5.
I think that's a fair assessment.
It's a 0 out of 5.
0 out of 5. All right. Vivian, do we have a sponsor for this week?
Yeah, this episode is sponsored by the Great Outdoors.
Wow, tell me about these Great Outdoors.
So the Great Outdoors is a term that many people have a little bit of problems with nowadays because they're not really sure what it means. But essentially, if you open your door and walk out of it, you're in the Great Outdoors. For example, here in our recording studio, if I were to stand up and walk out my door into the hallway, I'd be in the Great Outdoors. Does that make sense to you?
I suppose so.
Do you understand?
So you're telling me that if I'm inside my house, there's a way that I can stop doing that, stop existing inside my house.
Yes. Well, not necessarily. See, there is a fine line between inside your house and the Great Outdoors, but the line is actually, depending on the size you relate yourself to the universe, it can be very big. For example, right now, we have entered the Great Outdoors. Do you hear that? You, June, and you at home? I feel enlightened now. As a part of the Great Outdoors, I can feel the sun on my face. I can hear the animals, and I think it's just lovely. And this happened because I walked out of a door.
That's interesting. Oh, I see why they named it that now.
Yes. So.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. So the Great Outdoors is just essentially a state of being.
Ah, I understand now.
Yes.
I understand.
So if you can use this mindset at home and go to the Great Outdoors, we will actually send you a coupon code for a free trial to Great Outdoors 2.0, which is something we can talk about in a later episode.
Yeah.
As part of because
we are not allowed to share certain information about the Great Outdoors 2.0 yet, but we're very excited to be partnering with it.
Yes,
the Great Outdoors. We are so excited to be sponsored by the Great Outdoors 2.0
Yes.
It's truly going to be an amazing experience.
Yes, I feel very lucky to have partnered with such an amazing branch and company.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's time we return back to our world, the great indoors, dare I say. Does that sound like something that you would like to do?
That sounds like a nice time.
All right. I actually have asked a lot of our audience for jokes. As this we entered a small joke drought, but we're back now, and I would like to talk about jokes that maybe aren't funny
Okay.
at all. Not a 0 out of 5, just that are not jokes. So I asked a lot of viewers, do you have any jokes that you find funny? And one of them says, me. One of them says, me. Another one of them says, oh, me. Now, let me talk about unoriginality. I think that self-deprecating jokes, personally, I do sometimes tell them, but I'm not the biggest fan. I think they promote a negativity that is not needed, but, is very easy to access.
Mm-hmm.
But also, they are very common, and I believe that common jokes lose charm. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
I believe at one point when someone asked, hey, you have a funny joke? And someone says, oh yeah, me, I'm the joke. As in, I'm like maybe worthless, or I'm less than, or I'm just funny because my life is funny. I think that was funny, but now I think it's a gut reaction to say, hey, you got any jokes? Someone will say me. And I think that is an issue because not because of the self-replication, but because it's not funny because it's overtold.
It's something that plagues all unoriginality. Something that plagues all of even the most seasoned joke tellers, such as even myself. You may recall, even here on Jokecast, in an environment where I try to be professional as much as I can, I too will fall prey to telling a horribly unoriginal joke that just isn't funny. There was an episode recently, I can't recall the number off the top of my head, but I told just an abysmal joke about osteoporosis, which is no longer funny and hasn't been for some time. And I think that you can see in the examples that Vivian has given the way that this kind of ripples out into society. So we would urge you all of our listeners, to tell original jokes.
Don't tell bad jokes.
Don't tell a bad joke.
I think dad jokes are okay. Sometimes the repetition is the punchline, like a dad joke or something like that. However, usually when people tell jokes like that, they are trying to be original and funny. And thank you for sharing your story. I think this can really help our joke community grow as a whole. But in general, try and submit jokes that you think are funny, not jokes that you think other people will think are funny. We here on Jokecast, we really want to how would I say this? To grow love for jokes within our community, not just to grow appreciation for some jokes that are funny or for the podcast itself. Our goal, our mission is to get the world to love jokes.
We are fostering a joke appreciation that has never existed. And I think that the only way that can truly be accomplished is through all of us and through speaking out when we hear a joke that isn't funny and through advocating with our hearts for the jokes that we do truly love.
Yes. And with that, I would like to say thank you so much for listening to the Jokecast today, post hiatus.
Thank you so much. We love you all very much.
Yes. Thank you.